Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking it out. If this is your first time here, I really appreciate you coming and checking out my content. If you're returning, I really appreciate you coming back and looking at it again and checking out more of my stuff. I really appreciate it. I want to keep making these kind of videos for you and do a lot of cool stuff like this. A lot of game stuff and nerd stuff in general. So, like, comment, subscribe, share. All that stuff really helps me get the channel going, and I really appreciate every view. And right now, I'm still small enough that I can respond to every comment too. So let me know what you think. Today, I wanted to talk about the Thunder Road Vendetta Maximum Chrome Edition that was released by Restoration Games. Just came out. Well, just came to my house about a week ago. They've released it through a Kickstarter. And it's a revamp of a game from the 80s called Thunder Road that was done by Milton Bradley. Now, the whole concept of the game has not changed between the 80s version and this version now. Conceptually, it's pretty straightforward Mad Max, Road Warrior, Fury Road kind of concept where you're a group of cars. Each player has a group of cars, group of vehicles. They're racing down a post-apocalyptic, stretch of road. And it's essentially a race, but first one to the end wins. But it's really more of an elimination game. You're trying to wipe out the other players' vehicles. In fact, the game cannot end for three or more players until one team has been eliminated. Road sections just keep getting laid down until one team has been eliminated. Then at that point, the next road section after the one that was just laid down will become the last road section, and the first car to reach the end of that road wins. Their team wins. I want to do a playthrough at some point in the near future. I'm not going to be able to do it today, but I do have time to do a brief, just kind of a review of the game, a brief overview of it, kind of let you know what it's all about. I know there's a lot of other good videos out there about this game. I just kind of wanted to give my opinion on it too, let you know what I think about it. I had played the original Thunder Road, not in the 80s. I actually played it about 15 years ago with a game group that I used to hang out with back when I lived in Atlanta. And it was a group of adult gamers, college guys and older, including Richard Launius, game designer of Arkham Horror and a ton of other stuff. But somebody brought the original Thunder Road one night to game, and we played it, and it was a hoot. I mean, it was not the deepest game, but it was hilarious. All of us were just riffing on Road Warrior dialogue and everything else, and it was hilarious. So the base concept of that game is the same thing. You're racing down the road. In that one, it's just you're trying to eliminate the other players, and the road never ends. And the concept of the way the road works is there are 3 sections of road. And each one is a separate piece. As you can see here, I can kind of separate them out, right? So, as one car reaches the last space on the farthest road section, once they reach that and are going to need to go on to another road space, a new road tile will be added, and the oldest one, the farthest left one, will drop off. So, in that case, any vehicles that are still back here are just outrun, and they have fallen behind, and they are eliminated. So all those vehicles are eliminated. But there's also a lot of other ways to eliminate vehicles. There's road hazards you can smash people into. You have guns on your cars that you can shoot at them, with machine guns. You also have attack helicopters that you can bring in that'll try to shoot people and that sort of thing. But again, the concept is just keep driving until you're the last one at the end of the road. Again, most games will end with eliminations, but eventually somebody will get to the end of the road. What they've done, what Restoration Games has done with this one is kept the same concept, kept the same basic vehicle types. They've toughened them up a little bit. In the original game, it was basically one hit, they're out. This one, they have 2 hits before they're disabled, and then they can repair if you get a 6 on your movement roll for the turn. I'll explain how the dice rolls work in a minute. But the basic gist of it is the same. However, now they have added things like all these hazards that are on the road, and these are put down in an effort to keep players moving off the blacktop if possible, because the blacktop gives you the most speed, right? So if you start and end your movement, all your movement happens on blacktop. You get extra movement based on a random roll of the movement dice, the road dice. and that's like 1 through 3. So if you stay on the road for your full movement, let's say you have a 5 for your movement that turn, your car moves 5 spaces on pavement, then you have a 2 on the road die. Because you stayed your 5 spaces all on the road, you can add the 2 road die spaces to your movement, and those do not have to remain on the road at that point. You can go off road for those 2 spaces if you need to. A lot of the hazards will happen in places where the road is, in an effort to kind of force players to drive off the road more often, and that works really well because there's a lot of spaces like rocks and ramps and that sort of thing that you'll hit that aren't necessarily on the road. And that's where all the fun happens, is when you're trying to run people off the road, run them off the board. If they run off the board itself, they're eliminated immediately. If they hit a rock that has like a double yellow line around it, they're eliminated immediately. So these hazards, when you drive over them, as soon as you hit one, you just flip the tile over and it'll tell you what it is. Like, for example, you flip this one over and it's mud, right? That just slows you down a little bit, right? So it takes one of your movements. It takes 2 movements to go through a mud, right? If you hit an oil slick, it basically skids you off in another direction for a movement. Some of them are blank spaces, then just don't do anything. They're fake hazards, they're mirages or whatever. Some of them are mines, some of them are other wrecked cars, ramps that suddenly pop up in front of you, that kind of thing. And there's dice for rolling jumps and that sort of thing, the stunt die. So the way the game works is you have a team of 3 cars, okay? And the base game is you have the 3 cars, you have your small car, you have your medium car, and you have your large car, okay? And each one of these boards, I'm going to put them down. I can't put them down where you can see them like that because of my camera, but what I'll do is I'll put them here. They all kind of link together like this. So move that out of the way. So if you can see this, they're kind of linked together. And you have your small, your medium, your large car, small, medium, large. And then you have your command card here. And this gives you some extra things you can do with your dice. Now in the base game, it's a lot of dice rolling. There is an option if you're not into dice rolling, which I'll go into in a minute. But on your turn, all you have to do is take the 4 dice of your color. In this case, I'm using the orange cards. I'm going to roll the dice, and then I'll take all my die rolls that I have and keep them. So I rolled a 4, 4, 5, and 6, okay? So then I can assign that to each vehicle, right? So when my turn comes around, I pick one of my cars and I assign a die to it, right? So let's say I want this medium car here to move 5. So I'll put the 5 on him, and then he'll go, do I want to drive into the hazard or not? Maybe, maybe not. But let's say I don't, right? So he'll go into one of these 3 spaces directly in front of his space. So he'll skid over here, 1, 2, 3, and then I'll get him back on the road, 4, 5, okay? He did not do his entire move on the road, so he doesn't get the bonus of the road die bonus, which I will get right here, just so you can see what that looks like. So the road die is right here, and as I said, it just has a 1, 2, or 3 on it. And if I had rolled that and come up with a 2, as I said earlier, for example, and had stayed on the road, then I have 2 extra spaces of movement for that car. Then the next person takes their turn. Blue will take his turn, he'll move his cars, etc., etc. And I moved the blue car on that one, not even the orange car, but anyway, regardless. So, all these cars have been moved now. And now we're down to my last car, which hasn't moved yet, right? So let's say I took my 6 and I moved that on the small car, and I flew him way up here, and I put 5 on my medium, as I said, and I put him over here, okay? Now I still haven't used, I've got 2 dice left to use, and they're both 4s in this case, okay? So the 4, I have to put it on my car, my large car, and we'll move him 4, but I also have this extra 4. That's where the command card comes in, the command tile, okay? So on this, you have these spaces up here in the corners that are based on the die roll you assign to them is what action you can do. So if I have assigned a die with a 1, 2, or 3 on it, I can add nitro boost to the speed of the car that I'm about to move. So that 4 would become a 5, 6, or 7. But I don't have a 1 through 3, so I can't use that space. I could spend a 6. If I had a 6, I assign the 6 there and use that to repair a damage token from one of my cars if they were damaged. But I didn't roll a 6 either. So my 2 options are I have a 3 through 5. I can ignore it's a drift. I can ignore the first slam my car would have this turn. So that would be anything I run into. I don't have to roll the dice for it for the accident. I just keep moving. just drive through it like the car's not there. The other option is any die can be assigned to an airstrike, and that is where the chopper comes in. So I would take my chopper, because that's what I want to do on this, and I'll take my 4. It doesn't matter the number, it just, any die gets assigned to the chopper space, the airstrike space. I take my chopper and I put it behind on an empty space and shoot at any enemy car. So without extra cards or special abilities, the machine gun range is always 1. So I would just put him behind the little car here. And then I would just roll the die to see if I hit him. Now the die for attacking is this black die here. And it has several results. The large vehicle is the easiest one to hit. So the L result, the large result, is on there 3 times. There's also an any result. That means it'll hit anything. Then there's a medium result and a small or medium result. And that's, if you notice, the small will only get hit on the any or the small, and the medium will get hit on the medium, small, the medium, or the any, and the large will get hit on the 3 larges or the any. So again, the largest vehicle is the easiest one to hit, the medium's easier to hit than the small, and then the smallest is the hardest one to hit. So in this case, I'm just going to take a shot with my helicopter. It's just a simple die roll. There's nothing special about it. You just roll the attack die. And I came up with an L for large car, so I missed the small car that I was shooting at over here. Excuse me. After the turn is over, you collect your dice, and play proceeds around again the same way. As I said, it goes on until, in a 3-player game, 3 or more players, one team is eliminated, and then one more tile of road gets set down, and then that's the end of the line, and then whoever crosses the line wins. In a 2-player game, I believe you just put down 5 tiles throughout the entire game, and at the end of the 5th tile, that's the end of the race. So there's not necessarily going to be elimination in a 2-player game, because if they're eliminated, that's just the end of the game anyway. There are also things in this Kickstarter edition, this Maximum Chrome edition, that add to the game a lot of extra candy that will kind of enhance the game, make it more complicated, make it more complex, in a good way, not a complicated bad way. It's still going to be the very simple game that it always was, but they'll add certain things like these leader cards here, okay? So these will replace the command card, the command tile here, and now you have a specific personality leading your gang of cars, right? So you've got Abigail, the street sergeant here, right? So her ability is when you shoot, if another of your operable cars is adjacent to your target, you automatically hit. So it basically, if you can surround your enemy and gang up on them, she automatically hits with her guns. And that's her special ability. All the other abilities she has are the same as everybody else's. Airstrike, nitro, drift, repair. The clown, Bumpo the clown, does not have a drift. He has a bump option for his 6, and his repair is also a 6. But the first time he slams his turn, he roll only the direction die and move the other car. So he's good about, when he gets into a collision, you roll a die to see which vehicle gets moved and in what direction. So sometimes you smash into somebody and your car is the one that gets flung off in the direction you don't want to go. For this particular character, if he rolls a 6 and puts that down here, when he has a slam action, the other car is the only one getting moved, not his. And then, of course, his ability is if your car would move in a slam, you may re-roll the direction die. So he's very good about, not going in bad directions, or at least he has a second chance to not go in a bad direction. There's several of these characters. There's ones about like damage tokens. Like this one doesn't take specifics on damage, just like the damage tokens will say things like, your wiring's exposed, so your movement is messed up. You go in a different direction at the start of your turn. You roll the direction die, and it kind of throws your driving off. Or you have a bad alternator, or that kind of thing. This character, Asha the Road Mistress, she has jury rigging, which ignores the effects of damage tokens. You just place them face down. Her cars just take generic damage. They don't take anything special that affects them in any way. And there's multiple characters like this. I'm not going to go into all of them right here to go into that, but suffice to say, it adds some personality to the teams. Instead of just orange, blue, green, that sort of thing, you've got an actual character that is kind of your avatar for the game. There are also, one of my favorite things is the Chop Shop upgrades, these cards here. These add weapons and other gadgets to the vehicles, like anti-aircraft radar, or smoke screens, crumple zones, snowplow, assault bumper, computers, that kind of thing. So those enhance the vehicles and kind of give them a little more personality, make them more unique instead of just my generic medium car against your generic medium car. Now it's my medium car with heavy machine guns versus your medium car with heavy armor and that sort of thing. So it kind of adds a little more variety to the game and makes every game play a little differently than just always the same with just these generic cars. The other really cool thing that they've added that I was going to talk about with the movement is a thing they call the German engineering deck. Now, the German engineering cards, it's a clever phraseology referencing German board game mechanics where you don't roll so much dice. So instead of rolling the 4 dice for your turn to see what your movement is, you have a hand of 5 cards from your color-coded deck. Now, there are 2 other factions in the set, the Maximum Chrome Edition, that don't have these cards. You have the bikers and you have the truck, the big rig. They do not use these they can't ever use these cards. They always have to use the dice. But the 4 general teams of cars, you have an option to use these cards. And all they are is just numbers. They're numbered 1 through 6, just like the dice. And I'll try to see if I can get them a little closer for you so you can kind of see what they look like here. So they just look like, speedometer type graphics on them with the number. And what you'll do is, on your turn, you'll draw 5 cards. And then with those 5 cards, now you know exactly what you're going to have for the turn. And then you keep 1 at the end of the turn. And then the next turn, you'll draw 4 more, get back up to 5 cards. They function exactly the same as the dice. It's just you're not rolling the dice. So you're not going to necessarily get stuck with all 1s or something like that. So it takes out some of the luck craziness. It mitigates some of that. There is also, instead of the attack die, there are icons on here for the shooting as well. So there's some drawing of the cards instead of rolling for it. So if you're not into super heavy dice rolling games, you prefer a little bit more elegant Euro style mechanics, but you still want to get your post-apocalyptic Mad Max board game on, you can play with these German engineering cards, and they add that little bit extra Euro style to it. So in a nutshell, that's the game. As I said, there's some variants with it where you've got a truck that's like 3 sections long. Instead of multiple vehicles, it's multiple sections of the truck. So you've got like the cab and then 2 trailers. The bikes, there's 5 bikes on that team. Both of those teams do have a helicopter as well. And for the most part, that's it. There's not a whole lot else to talk about. There's cards that you can add to the game that include weather conditions. Every time you bring up a new piece of road, you can draw a card that says whether it's icy conditions or wind or rain or no weather, no bad weather, just a sunny day, that sort of thing, to kind of add some variety to it, which is pretty cool. Again, all these things they've added to the game don't really make it complicated. They just enhance it and give it a little bit more flavor. Because, as it was in the Milton Bradley edition back in the 80s, it was a fun game, but it was not a whole lot of depth to it. So, what you got is what you got when you played it. And it was very good for the kind of game that it was at the time, kind of it was a game aimed at like 12-year-old boys, and it was really cool at the time for that sort of thing. But now, this is a game where, if you're still playing it with a 12-year-old boy, they can figure it out, they can have a good time, they can still play it, but it's also good for 51-year-old men to play too. And there's enough strategy and depth to it that it's a lot of fun without being super heavy, movement templates and to hit numbers and all this kind of thing. It's just, move your cars, shoot some guns, keep on going. I grew up playing Car Wars. I have a Car Wars set now. I love Car Wars, but it's complicated. You can't really just bust it out and play it in 30 minutes and have a game. This game, from setup to finish, if everybody knows what they're doing and they've played it at least once before, depending on how many players, it's probably about 30-45 minutes tops. It is not a long game. It's longer than a filler. It's definitely not a filler game, but you can play it multiple times in an evening, and it's a lot of fun doing it. It's fast. It's loose. It's it's cutthroat without being vindictive, because it's hard to gang up on someone. You can, but you're still trying to get to the end of the road yourself, and so is everybody else. So you're not necessarily going to hang back and try to pick somebody, pick on one person. You're still trying to drive. So there might be those moments where there's one person kind of getting shot at by multiple people, but unless you're just playing like a jerk, it's really not going to be an issue where one person's getting picked on constantly and the other person's just running away with the game. I mean, at any given time, someone else is in the lead and that person gets the bullseye on them. So, if you have a problem with games with player elimination, I could see that being an issue with this. But again, you're not spending hours playing it, where player elimination feels terrible because you spent hours building up your army or something, or your civilization, and now you're gone. You're out of the game, and you get to sit and watch everybody play for the next 2 hours. It's not that kind of game. When you get eliminated, just sit back, finish your drink. The rest of it will be over in a minute, and then you play again. Not a big deal. So, in my opinion, I really like this game. I think it fills in a certain, it scratches a certain itch. It's a lot of fun. It's light, but it still lets you get that vehicular combat racing thing on. And it's probably the best balance of variety and depth without getting, again, so far into things like movement templates and that sort of thing, weight measurements and whatever. This is a game that pretty much anybody can play. I mean, again, German engineering cards are not, let's just say you're not using those, roll the dice and assign them to a car. It's that easy. It is not a hard game to play. And then you can always add the more complicated things as it goes. You don't have to start with the personalities. You don't have to start with the weather. You don't have to start with the chop shop upgrades. Just bring the cars out, roll the dice, move them down the road. It's not a hard game. It's a lot of fun. Comparing it to other driving games, if you're looking for racing games, it's not necessarily going to be comparable to things like Formula D or Downforce. But it is in a way, because Formula D has dice movement, but Formula D has dice movement based on gears. So you're rolling certain dice depending on what gear you're in on your car. So that's definitely a racing game, and it feels like a race. This one feels like a race, but this one feels more like, and it should feel like, the race, at the end of Road Warrior, where they have the semi full of, well, allegedly fuel, sand, as they're racing down the road and the gangs are chasing the truck, or Fury Road, where that whole movie was one big car chase, which is amazing. So it definitely has that kind of feel to it, and that's what they're going for. It's not a deep racing game. It's not anything like Downforce, which is a great game, also by Restoration Games, but that's a racing game where you're kind of betting on performance. So sometimes you're actually helping other cars to win, because that'll help which one you bet on. In this case, it's just a matter of get your guys down the road and wipe out anybody who gets in your way. So if you like games that are quick, fast, a little bloodthirsty without being mean, but just you like to shoot things, blow them up. If you like the Mad Max movies, if you like that sort of thing, I definitely recommend checking it out. If you have kids, they'll love it. Again, like I said, probably 10 and up would be perfectly fine with it. But it's definitely not just a kids game. I mean, it's a game for hobby gamers. It looks great on the table. There's multiple road sections that all have different things. You have choke points and all that kind of thing. So there's a lot of variety to it. And each one of these board sections is also two-sided as well. So you have two different pieces on each road section. So that adds to it as well. So overall, I think it's a definite thumbs up. It's a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to getting it to the table with some other people in the near future and see what they think of it. But let me know what you think. Have you gotten your copy yet? Have you had a chance to play it? I've had a chance to play it a couple of times now, and I've really enjoyed it. So, obviously, as I'm saying. So let me know what you think. Comment, subscribe, share, and I'll be happy to respond. As I said, I'm still a small enough channel that I can respond to everybody. So let me know what you think. And the people that were asking in the last video, did I get the coin? I did not get the coin. That was apparently a day one backer thing, and we did not back on day one. We backed in the first week, but we didn't get it on the first day. So we were early, but not that early, so we didn't get that. But everything else we got with the game. We got the cars with the wash and the Chrome Edition set with all the expansions. Got the sleeves for the cards and all that, and it all fits in the box very nicely. So anyway, let me know what you think. Thanks for checking out the video, and I hope to have some more content up for you with this game and a lot more in the very near future. Take care.